Hello, Nikki. Welcome to Founders Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm really good. It's summer and the weather is warm.
Indeed,
Everything's
isn't
great.
it? Awesome. We've been lucky in London. Last 2 weeks been really summery for us. Uh, exceptionally grim and gray area to be lived, but suddenly you have some summer, so that's pretty cool. Great. So, Nikki, do you have a favorite quote, something that motivates or inspires you would like to share with our audience?
It's an oldie but a goldie.
Hmm.
The quote is, when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot.
There
And
you go.
yes, so it's sort of like, and in the world that we're living in at the moment with fast-paced change, I think it's a very poignant sort of quote. And it reminds me always that no matter how comfortable you are, you need to keep on expanding and growing. Otherwise, we'll become like dinosaurs and become extinct. So,
Indeed, isn't it?
yeah, so that was my quote.
Great. So, Nikki, imagine that we are in a room full of ambitious founders and early age stage builders. No one knows your name, and you've got just a few minutes to introduce yourself. Not with your title or where you're working or what's your startup, but with a story that explains why people should trust what you have to say. How would you begin?
Probably begin by saying every journey starts with a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I've looked at amazing inventions, it's always been because there's a problem. And I think becoming a founder or an entrepreneur fundamentally is because we see something other people can't see and we want to solve it. And that tenacity and the consistency and the passion that you approach problem solving is, I think, the key element to being in a position to make change.
Definitely. So I've heard this in one of my YC, classes that people try to solve the problem of a vitamin, whereas they should be trying to solve a problem of a painkiller. Is that along the lines? Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's basically every invention that's stuck,
Hmm.
I think is a point of pain relief, which is what you're
Pain relief.
talking about. Yeah, and vitamins really are just the outer end of a pain relief because what you're trying to do is sustain health. So
Indeed.
I think that one of my other sayings is always that when you're looking at a problem, you need to make sure you're looking at the head of the octopus, not the legs,
Not the
because
legs.
causational problems are not the core issue. And if you can come up with what the core issue is, you'll always come up with a solution. But the trick is not becoming complacent when thinking you've got the solution, but making sure that you keep on digging just that little bit more so that you actually come up with the real problem of the cause.
The course. Great stuff. So tell us about Fintel Connect then. What does the product do? Who is it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
Let's start with who we're trying to solve the problem for and work our way back. So, who's the sort of like ideal client, if you'd like to put it that way?
Hmm.
What we found is that in digital acquisition and digital marketing, things are progressing really quickly, always have. But one of the key drivers or foundational elements of our society are banks and credit
Hmm.
unions and fintechs, basically the movement and protection of money. These are businesses like every other business, and they need to grow and they need to get new customers and they need to make sure that their deposit to loan ratios are good and all that sort of stuff. And
Hmm.
what I really noticed was that there was the banks at the top and the biggest credit unions and the biggest fintechs have got digital acquisition down pat. They do it really well and they're very, very sophisticated in the way that they do it. But there's
Hmm.
layers and layers and layers and layers of financial institutions underneath that don't have the same ability to morph, to skill, to get good talent in. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to give those financial institutions the same access
Hmm.
to great digital acquisition channels. So that's why Fintel became in existence. We saw a need that banks needed new customers, they needed to get online, and they needed to be digital. And they needed leadership as well as strategy and technology. And that's where we all came together.
Awesome. Great. And so let's talk about where the story actually began. Where did you where did the idea actually came from?
So I'm very fortunate. This is my second business, not my
Hmm.
first. I'm not quite sure why I went back again, but anybody who goes back again says, well, because you had to. And I'm going, maybe.
There you go.
Um, I was introduced to the type of technology that we actually built in about 2000. So just cast your mind back to when Google started in 98.
Yeah.
So first started and exposed to what's called affiliate technology or affiliate program technology. And a business that I was working with at the time was looking for a bespoke piece of technology for a specific industry, and it
Mm.
didn't exist. And so I thought, why not? So I'm not a technologist, I'm a marketer.
Hmm.
And I basically, between my business partner and myself, we wrote the technology up, um, did a scope, got someone to build it, and then we started building that business. And
Hmm.
that business we sold in 2016. We extensively self financed it.
Hmm.
So it was very much a grind. And when we left the business, we dominated the industry we were in. We controlled about 85% of the world
Wow.
market. And it was in affiliate technology for regulated online gambling. So a
Hmm.
niche of a niche.
Niche of a
Um,
niche.
but the interesting thing about the technology being affiliate technology, it lends itself to having to build increased trust.
Hmm.
So in so I've chosen two industries to double down on. One is one on online gambling, and another one is the financial industry. There's two things to understand about both of these: highly regulated,
Hmm.
which isn't always everybody's cup of tea because it makes things there's just more
Difficult.
hurdles. Yeah,
Yeah.
just more hurdles. But the other thing is that both of these industries depend on trust.
Hmm.
So in banking, you're always going to put your money somewhere that you trust or that's what you need to trust in the institution or the product or any of those sorts of things. But then in the regulated gambling industry, you also needed to trust that you were able to get your money out.
Hmm.
So this digital acquisition type lends itself to trust. But because it lends itself to trust, you also are under high scrutiny, very regulated, high scrutiny, and everybody sort of like is very uh, skeptical of who you are. So I saw the ability to do it strategically, do
Hmm.
it as a focus, and double down on a niche, which is what we've done.
Hmm.
So then, that's how we got into it. Sorry, to answer your question,
Yeah.
you'll need to cut my stories off here. To get into it, what happened was that while we were building the other business, a large bank in Canada called Scotiabank approached us in about 2012
Hmm.
and said, you have the technology, you're Canadian, and can you integrate with legacy technology? So that's where I got exposed to it. So I was actually exposed to this area a very long time ago, 2011, 2012. Sold the last business, had this other business, decided to do something with it, and here we are today.
Very interesting. And the way you have explained it, what was the niche of niche and how you got financed it all together in one go, like from yourself, no investment, nothing. So you didn't took any external money
We did
to
take
build.
it was friends and family. It was a small, very small amount, but that's all the
Mhm.
money that we took. So we took it, that's why I say extensively self-financed, because it was something that just got us sort of like into it. And then we
Mm.
financed it for the rest of the 14 years that we were in
14
it.
years. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's
yeah.
amazing. And let's talk about your new business then, more about like Fintel Connect, the affiliate technology. And when you had this epiphany, when you planned to go forward with this, did you look into the market? Were there any other products? What was going on at that time? And did you see
So,
from your research?
no, I think this is always, I'm going to answer this question with the one coin that has two sides.
Hmm.
Okay. So I think what happened, we definitely were aware of who the players were. We were definitely aware of what the market landscape was. We were definitely aware of all of those things. But when we decided to go into it, we had two very big clients in the area, which were Scotiabank and Tangerine. So we had, like in any real estate development project, they always say you need your anchor tenant. whatever that happens to be. So we had our anchor tenants. And what we were looked at is we thought technology had advanced from when I started in 2011, 2012 to where we are now. Digital consumption, mobile usage, people's comfort with putting sensitive information online, people being comfortable to doing, online banking or digital transactions. It had all changed, which gave us the opportunity to do what we are doing now. But I saw it, if you can imagine, every business has waves. And I think we're at the time when we decided to go ahead with this, we were at the thought of a wave, if that makes sense. We were right at the very beginning of it. And as 5 years down the track, we're definitely seeing the crest of it coming up. And I don't think the wave needs to come down, but it's like that hockey stick that you see in all of the private equity.
Startups,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's exactly
yeah, in
right.
the
We're in
VC
all those.
meetings, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So what I see is that it's a gradual build. It may not be the hockey stick, but it's definitely a gradual build. And I think the reason that we chose to do it was because I don't think anybody else could have necessarily. And I think there was a need that was big enough for us to do something about it.
Interesting. And Fintel Connect aims to disrupt the performance marketing in fintech by
Yep.
emphasizing on transparency, scalability. Could you explain to our listeners how your approach actually differs from the traditional marketing models?
Okay, so there's two answers to that question. We don't differ from traditional
Mm.
marketing models. We are a layer on top of traditional marketing models. So traditional marketing models, it's all about where the payment occurs. So whatever you're doing in digital acquisition or digital marketing, you're really wanting to acquire a customer. The end result is net new customers into your product. Now, I'll go very big picture. In digital marketing, you've got brand and you've got acquisition. Now, the tactics for both of those exercises are the same. Organic search, organic um, chat engines, AI engines, social media, email marketing, display, all of those sorts of things. All of those exist. But the interesting thing is that when you're doing brand, it's about a feeling or an image. When you're doing acquisition, it's usually a call to action. Now, with all of those methodologies that I've spoken about, you're paying before you get the customer. You're paying for the impression, you're paying for the work to be organic, what do they call it, GOs now?
Yep.
Genetic engine optimization. You're paying for that, you're paying for the click, you're paying for everything pre-transaction. Affiliates are really different because you pay post-transaction. You pay when you get the customer. And what we find is that normally brands are able to do a lot in like a bank or a credit union or a fintech is able to do a lot with its own spend to do that pre-client acquisition and all of those sorts of, whether it be branding or acquisition. But then what happens is you need to scale. And you need to look at everything that you possibly have in your artillery to be able to scale. And that's where affiliates come in. Because with affiliates, you're only paying for the customer that you get or the event that you want, but they actually help full funnel. They help build a brand's reputation. They help educate the consumer on what the brand is. And what they also do is they actually deliver the result at that point of conversion. So it's an incredibly powerful channel, but it's a builder channel. You need to have all of those other things in place before you actually use affiliates. So that's what makes it pretty unique, is that it's a build on top of what you've already done to scale at that point. Or you can use it along the funnel, but we always tell a financial institution, you've got to be investing in your own marketing because otherwise you don't know where the conversions are failing. You don't know what messages are working. So you also have to do it yourself so that you can be the source of truth for the affiliates or publishers that come along.
So essentially, what we're trying to do here is making sure that the advocates of the brand actually bring more
Yes,
revenue to the brand by
that's it.
empowering the brand with all the new technological,
Yep,
spectrum available to us.
yep.
That's very interesting. I mean, we founders don't think about affiliate marketing that much when we start. We predominantly focus on, as you mentioned, social media, email, and all these kind of upfront paying marketing
Because you're in
techniques.
control of them. You
Hmm.
have to be in control of it to actually get where your conversion point and where your LTV becomes the best. So
Yeah,
you need to do all of that hard lifting. It's like a gym workout. You have to build that muscle yourself. But once you've built the muscle, that's when you get a team of other people behind you to do it with you. So that's
got
the
it.
difference.
Got it. Got it. So, Nikki, I want to ask you a futuristic question here because I think you are the person who can answer it at this point of time, I guess. What trends do you see shaping the future of performance marketing in fintech over the next 5, 10 years?
So that's really interesting. Unfortunately, I don't know. Probably if you had have asked me the question about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I may have had a very different answer. But I think what's happening is I think anybody in a digital capacity, anyone that touches a machine, a computer to do what they do, I think everybody is in a massive discovery phase because what's actually happening is generative AI is out there giving us tools and access and information and insights and a whole range of different things that we've never had access to before. I was trying to explain to somebody that when I first went to when I first started my career or I was in university, we
Mm,
went to libraries. We learned how to use index cards because that was the way that you got information. That's the
mm,
way that information was shared through books and printed magazines and publications and all of those sorts of things. And move ahead 25 years, and what you've got is you've got a whole world that is on your phone. I
mm.
mean, the reason that I look at my phone usage and go, my gosh, that is a lot. But that's when I am reading, I am communicating, I am researching, I'm entertaining myself. There's a whole range of different things that we do on that little device. So I think in what your question is where do I see my industry in 5 to 10 years' time? It definitely exists. It's definitely still a crucial role, and it's the role that we become crucial in is now up for discovery.
Mm, mm,
Brands are always going to want new customers. There are always going to be publishers out there like the Nerd Wallets and the Credit Karmas or the Clear Scores or any of those guys that are out there now that are actually sharing really cool, great financial information. And it will be how we solve this together where the genetic engines can't create that content with the accuracy and detailedness yet that we're used to. So it may be very different in a futuristic world, 25 years down the track, where all financial institutions just put something and a bot comes in or an agent comes and collects everything and then it's worldwide accessible. But
mm.
it's still about access and it's still about targeting. And that is the marketer's quandary. Who do we target with what information at what time in their decision making cycle? I'm not quite sure that AI is going to get that just in the next 5 years.
5 years.
So I still think that there's going to be a role for us humans in there somewhere.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I get reached by so many people around, oh, we can get you leads about this, and that all the time. But most of them, what they're doing with their AI fascinating systems is basically running the ads on social media platform, getting it into the CRMs in some way, and then pulling the other sources of information, putting it together and providing it. That's what I have learned from using multiple application till now. So let's move back to founders for now. Founders are crazy. They want to solve problems, but they not necessarily always understand how to market themselves or even choose a right fit. How should a founder approach selecting the right affiliate or partner to
And
ensure high
it's,
quality traffic?
yeah, I think what the deal is that I'm going to talk very specifically about finance and fintech in finance, a founder in finance, because affiliates are a scaling business, which means that there has to be affiliates can't work in isolation. Like going back to your founder, that you've done all of these other things and never considered affiliates. And that's probably because you haven't got to that stage yet that affiliates have become relevant. So I'm not saying that we've had a lot of, I call them skinning my knees and stubbing my toes. We started working with a lot of early stage fintech founders, and we actually found out that what they needed in their seed, early Series A, maybe even up to Series B, we couldn't do it as efficiently as they could because we're dealing through third parties. So it was more important to get the bum on the seat for them than build the halo around the brand. Because what happens is you need both as you mature, but at the very beginning, when you're trying to proof of concept, get the growth ratios in, get all of that stuff going, you really just need the bums on the seats. So affiliates play both roles, so they become more expensive because you get two dips of the at the can. So what I would seriously ask founders to consider is that the halo of your brand is important, but it's important grows in time. It's not necessarily important day one, but you always have to keep that acorn in your head about what the halo effect of your brand is, because that helps with valuation.
Got it.
So I was very fortunate that the first business that I sold, we had a massive reputation because I always looked at, even when we were really, really tiny, I was looking at our fictional share price. And share price, as we know, is all about market confidence. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the story. It's all about the vision. Now, does that sound very similar to what a founder needs to do when they raise money? Exactly. And so that's why I would say to every founder out there, whether it's in the fintech area or not, is have a small acorn when you start about what your brand value needs to be and the halo effect around that. And that's where, as you grow and go down the track and you need to scale, that's where publishers come in because they create the halo brand image as well as the outcome of bums on seats, new customers through the door, and all of that sort of stuff. So it wouldn't be something that I would consider every uh, new founder consider because everything in its right time and place. But I think where I would talk to most founders about is that a good idea is a good idea until you can operationalize it. And that's also when you talk about, you may have somebody that's very good at product, but as everybody knows who's tried to do this before, product is only one element of, then you've got HR, then you've got marketing, then you've got logistics, then you've got finance, then you've got operations. There are a whole lot of other elements in this wheel that you need to have that needs to keep turning for you to actually build a successful business.
And would you be able to share like what are the common pitfalls, scale ups? Because I think now I understand that um, Fintel Connect is more, or the idea of having affiliates incorporated into your business uh, becomes beneficial for you once you have your brand set up, your halo is there, but also you understand how the perception is working out for your customers, and then your advocate can bring you more
Or it,
customers.
it, it or you need to have that vision and start doing affiliates, and then it can build together. So
Built together,
it doesn't have to be sequential. It just needs to have to be incorporated. That's probably the
incorporated. So what are the common pitfalls founders face when launching these kind of affiliate programs, and how to avoid them to maximize transaction growth?
I think what the deal is that you actually if I was telling a founder how to do this independently from us, I would say that there are 5 things that you need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5 things are: you need to understand what the marketplace CPA is, cost per acquisition, and work out whether that's a tolerable amount for you to pay out. And that
Mm-hmm.
means that you need to have then your logistics back to your LTV very clearly worked out, and then also your costs related to that LTV. So it just becomes a math equation. Can I pay this and is this a value? So can you pay the CPA? The next place is do I have the resources in place to be a partner to these partners? So do I have somebody that can give them creative? Can I give them insight? Can I give them clarity on what I need? And that's just sometimes you may be able to pay the costs, but you don't have the resources in place to be able to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing is to understand that you need to have the technology base that's going to help both of you win, which means that you need to have an onboarding process for your customer that is seamless and sticky. You can't have big boulders in the road. You can't have people dropping off because it doesn't help anybody. And that's why I always suggest that founders do their own digital marketing on acquisition first so they know where the gaps are and what they have to do to fix it before they go out to a third party. The fourth thing
Mm-hmm.
is, sorry, I don't mean to be complicated here, but you did ask the question.
Yeah, no, no. I think this is quite eye-opening for me because it's a different way of approaching affiliate. Because what we founders think that, oh, put up a link for the referral, gives the money to the person who is referring to, and you're done. It's not like that at all.
No,
It's
it's a
so
channel.
deep.
It's a channel.
Yeah,
Well, that's why we exist, because
yeah.
if everybody could do it, everybody would do it. So
Mm,
then sort of like these are the sorts of things and then it's looking at product and offer and calendars and all of this sort of thing. And you said to me, why did I do this? And I did this because it is this. It is quite an intricate, it's not complicated, but it's very intricate. And I don't think everybody has the patience or the insight to be able to work it into intricate fabric or tapestry to be able to
mhm.
propel something forward. And that's why we exist. We're solving a problem.
Indeed. That's the first thing we have to do, isn't it?
That's it.
Great stuff. So let me ask you a personal question then, Nikki. Throughout your journey and experience, then there must have been some valuable lessons learned, right? If you don't
Absolutely.
mind sharing, could you reflect on your experiences and tell us about a mistake or a setback that you have encountered along the way that you would now consider not a regret but a lesson to learn? And additionally, what advice would you give our listeners based on this experience?
I think it goes back to my starting quote: when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. You only know what you know because your experiences only allowed you to share what you know, right? You can only fully, really deeply understand something when you've experienced it. You can read about it, you can listen about it, you can share stories with other people, but until you actually experience it, you don't get it on the cellular level. And I think the biggest thing for me has been is really about facing my fears and managing risk. So I think when I talk about facing my fears, it's like, will it fail? Like, am I going all in on this? So it's like self-management of your own shadows more than anything else. Um, and once you've sort of like got that platform going and comfortable with it, then I think where it comes down next to is being very practical about it. And I think what happens with most founders that when we first started our first business, there were 3 of us. And so all of us did all the jobs. And then there's 5 of you, and then there's 10 of you, and then there's 30 of you, and then there's 50 of you, and then there's 100 of you. And I think where the thing is just understanding that you need to bring a different version of yourself to each of those stages of the business. But the biggest thing that I've learned is to trust in myself, because you have to trust, you have to let go of responsibilities, but you have to backfill well. It's almost like you start here and then you get up and up and up and up and up and up. And so you've got a very long way between ground zero and the top now in terms of people and responsibilities and function. But the whole idea is to just backfill the whole way, but have the trust that I say that my job is actually to clean. I have two jobs as CEO of a growing company. One is to make sure that we're driving to something, right? Driving to a vision. I understand where we're
The vision.
going and what happens and a vision. But then my other job is to clean up spilt milk because guess what? It's going to spill.
Yeah.
So I find that the most curious founders are the control freaks, which I am one, so I can talk very carefully generally about that. But the ones that have such a depth of product understanding or knowledge or understanding of the customer or whatever else, they're the experts, the subject matter expert. But what actually ends up happening is as your business grows, you become less of the subject matter expert. And my job is to herd cats. Like I am responsible for everything and in control of nothing. Because if I don't delegate that control to the head of marketing or the head of technology or the head of finance or the head of HR or the head of operations, then I can't scale my business.
Yeah.
So it's about letting go, but understanding if you've got transparency for then you've got the ability to solve any problems. So my story comes is that something happened with something happens all the time, but what happens is that I've now come to realize that it doesn't matter what happens, I will solve it, and my team will solve it. We will be able to
Great.
come up and solve it.
Yeah.
So there are blipples that come up. Some of them are client generated, some of them are market generated, some of them are human generated through mistakes because we are human. But I will tell you that it doesn't matter what happens. If you are determined enough and prepared to do what it takes, you will always solve the problem. It may not turn out the way you want. You may be behind instead of in front. There may be a whole range of different things, but you still exist. And that would be
Thank
my
you.
summary.
Thank you for that. I think it's a lot of wisdom there. And I'm loving this conversation so much that I want to go and go and on. But the problem is we are limited with the time. And we also have the lightning round to go through. So I've got a
Okay.
six quick fire question for you.
Sure.
If you don't feel answering one of them, just give me a skip and then we can skip through it. And I don't think so you will skip any of them because it's very straightforward. So you ready for it?
Sure am.
Great stuff. Number one, what are the top three strategies to generate more business for FinTech in 2025?
The top three strategies would be good product, differentiated product, good transparency in terms of data, and good partnerships. Being able to leverage not only just what you can do, but what other people can do.
Great stuff. What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
There is two books. I'm sorry, I'm going to answer this question with two. One is Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. It is the
Okay.
most boring read, and I read it 25 years ago, and I still think about it now, which is begin with the end in mind and win-win. So I would highly recommend that people listen to that or actually do it like listen to it and read it with a highlighter. It has some incredibly good nuggets. And the other one, I will have to get back to you. It's about how to build a business. It's the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And the E-Myth is that not all good businesses have good entrepreneurs. Sometimes a plumber is a plumber and they've got a great plumbing business, but it doesn't mean that they can scale into a plumbing enterprise. So it's just understanding what it actually takes to scale. And the E-Myth is a very good book for anybody to read for that.
Thank you. I am currently going through Profit First right now from Mike. I'm gonna put the E-Myth into the next one. So thanks for the advice.
Yeah.
Um, what's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Being able to manage risk and stomach risk.
That's first. This is the first time I've heard somebody's using this word stomach risk because I think it's important, right? You have to not just manage it, but also understand if something bad happens, you have to, take it
Have
in.
to manage it. Yep.
What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
My personal productivity tool would actually be meditation.
Interesting. So you're
Calms the
regular?
mind, calms the mind, so that you can actually focus on not the noise, but what actually needs to happen.
Great stuff. What's a new or a crazy business idea you would love to pursue if you had time?
None. My brain doesn't go there.
You just want to focus on
Yeah,
FinTech Connect right
I am
now.
one focused human being. Absolutely.
Great stuff, great stuff. And last but not least, what's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
That I love golf.
I've actually seen maybe one or two posts on your LinkedIn about golf, I
It's a new
guess.
passion. It's a new
Okay.
passion. So it's sort of between my uh, new obsession with golf
Mhm.
and between that and yoga. I think that's a sort of like a nice dichotomy between getting out there and hitting a ball and being very insular and doing yoga. So that would probably be most people don't know that that's what I really enjoy doing.
Great stuff. So if somebody wants to work for you, they have to either go to your yoga class or the place where you play
No,
golf,
not at
and
all.
then
Not at all. I encourage everybody to have their own passions. That's what makes us so different. Not at all.
great stuff.
Not
Well,
at all.
Nikki, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your stories, unpacking the last years of building this business and some of the, ups and downs along the way. If people want to get in touch with you, people want to learn more about Fintel Connect, what's the best way to do it?
Two really, really easy ways is my email, which is Nicky, Nicky at Fintel Connect, which is super easy, or on LinkedIn. I'm there, Nicky Sanyard on LinkedIn. There's not a lot of us around, so you don't get confused by other people.
Awesome. Great stuff. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your inspiring journey and the impactful work you're doing through Fintel Connect. It's
Thanks
been
so
an
much for having
absolute
me.
pleasure.
Oh,
It's
thank
been
you.
an
It's been
absolute
lovely.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.